Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey there, thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Glad to have you along today. Thanks a lot for giving this a 5-star review and a written review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you get an opportunity to do it, it's always helpful to the operation here. We're grateful that you do that and let other people know about the podcast. You have helped this thing grow by leaps and bounds with your support over the years. We're so thankful. And we also can't do it without your support of our sponsors. And the fact that we have great sponsors in the podcast means everything to the operation. So if you enjoy listening to the podcast, if you don't mind rating it, and if you don't mind supporting great sponsors like our title sponsor, John Ruhlman. John has been with us now for a few years, and he is absolutely the best when you're looking for the best prices and the best coverage in health insurance. usmedicalplan.com is his website. Now, all you need to do is set aside, let's call it a half an hour. Reach out, usmedicalplan.com, or call 877-410-4321 and tell them what you're paying right now and what you think about your coverage right now. Or maybe you have some questions. You're just not really happy with your current health insurance situation. They'll talk you through your options. And here's the thing. At U.S. Medical Plan, they know 100 different private health insurance companies. So they're going to get you the best possible price and never going to skimp on coverage. I know a lot of people think, well, if it's cheaper, it's not going to be as good a coverage. Not true. In fact, what you'll find when you work with U.S. Medical Plan is oftentimes you're paying more. You're paying much more than you should be for health insurance for not as great a coverage. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Well, how you doing? It's Monday, and I welcome you in. I hope your weekend was a fantastic one. Palm Sunday yesterday for those of us celebrating. I hope your official Easter season was a good one. Sunday, Easter, I look forward to this time of year. Every year I get a little older, and every year I start to realize why Easter is a far more important holiday to me than Christmas. I've said that every year for the last several, and it continues to be more true. I just absolutely adore this year. It's a great year to recharge and reinvigorate oneself. In fact, we've got a special, I want to mention this, at least on Friday on the podcast. I don't know that we'll have it here on the on Salem News Channel. Those of you that watch at snc.tv or on the Salem News Channel app, we might not. Eddie, did we get a ruling on that? I mean, I don't want to overpromise if that's not going to happen. I'll just say this much: we'll work on it. If we can show it to you on SNC, we will. But we're going to talk with my friend Billy Hollowell, who has got a new film out on miracles with the Christian Broadcasting Network. It is fantastic. He is fantastic if you know Billy's work. And I said, what we ought to do is just do a special Good Friday show featuring that movie. Just a sit-down conversation with Bill, all that he has discovered about miracles in this film, and his work broadly, which a lot of you in this audience maybe have not met Billy before. I want to introduce him to you if you've not. So that's going to be my special Good Friday show on the podcast. We won't be here. We're all going to be taking a holiday off, but that will definitely be something you're going to be able to hear in the podcast on Friday, and I want to commend it to you because I know it's going to be a good one. You're going to enjoy it. So let's get into this extremely, no doubt about it, unfortunate situation with the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. Because, look, first and foremost, violence of any kind directed at anyone is never to be tolerated. I guess here's my question. Are we as upset culturally, is the news as upset culturally with Tesla dealerships catching fire and Teslas being lit on fire as governor's mansions, Fast Eddie? That's just and listen, I am, to be consistent here, whenever anyone lights anything on fire, I'm alarmed. That disturbs me. I think people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law when they do those sorts of things. It's all terrorism to me. I just know there was a lot of concern about Governor Shapiro and his family, and I'm glad for that, and I'm glad they're all safe and well. Very, very unfortunate. A little bewildering to me, frankly, that a guy can just hop a fence and torch a wing of the governor's mansion in Harrisburg. Does that strike you as a little strange, by the way, Fast Eddie? Just not for nothing, but I mean, can people just hop fences and torch governor's mansions in this country? I didn't know that. I thought security existed.
This is very strange just because the governor's mansion is well guarded. It's even got a river on the other side of it.
Right. Yeah, you don't... Sorry, it's 2025, and I like asking questions. And one of the first things I asked myself was, a guy just hopped the fence and torched the governor's house while they were sleeping? I said to myself, but okay, I'll let investigators handle it. Kash Patel said he's going to allocate all federal resources to getting to the bottom of it. I'm sure he will. All right, so I've moved past question 1. How's a guy hopping a fence and torching the governor's mansion? Question 2, a lot of rightly very upset people about it. Governor says not just he, but the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was attacked with this arson attempt. Or I guess I shouldn't say attempt, it wasn't arson. So that's true. They've made an arrest, it appears, reading from the New York Times here today. A man charged with setting fire to the residence, forcing Governor Shapiro and his family to flee. Investigators said they found beer bottles with gasoline inside the house. Vice President Vance yesterday responded to the fire, calling it a really disgusting bit of violence. Thanks be to God, he said, that Governor Shapiro and his family were unharmed in this attack. Really disgusting violence. I hope whoever did it is brought to justice swiftly. 38-year-old Cody Balmer is the suspect in custody. Now, I did a little digging last night before bed, just for the heck of it, to see what could come up. There was one story that I could find that said that perhaps this guy's Facebook page had something anti-Biden written on it once upon a time, this Cody Balmer guy. I suspect we're going to know more about Cody Balmer in the coming days. There's not much more about it. They continue to say at this hour they don't know a motive behind it. Not hearing initial reporting that there's a lot of political motive behind it. I just hope that Cody Balmer, nothing happens to him. And I hope he's not cremated. You know what I'm saying, Fast Eddie? That's my hope. I hope nothing happens to Cody Balmer. He's cremated and we never hear another word about him again. I hope we do get to learn what motivates him and what makes him tick and why he would decide to hop a fence and try to torch the governor's mansion. I'd like to know everything about him myself. But the problem is, in Pennsylvania, a lot of times when people try to assassinate political figures, they just vanish off the face of the map and we don't know anything about them anymore. I don't know, like a guy who might scale a roof and try to shoot at the former president running for president again in Butler, Pennsylvania from 150 yards. Never heard about that guy again. So look, I want equal alarm and concern applied evenly every time someone tries to assassinate a political figure. I'm always for that. Still waiting on the Butler, Pennsylvania rally, Fast Eddie. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I want equal, evenly applied concern when political figures, or anyone, frankly, is assaulted by potential political violence or attempted to assault by political violence. I want that investigated every time. And I'm not entirely sure, if I'm to be completely honest with you, that both stories are treated the same. Fair to say?
Very fair, Chris. We are pretty far along from Butler, and we still have many questions and no answers.
I mean, Shapiro came out yesterday, and he said that, this is always bad. I don't give a damn who it's directed at. It's got to stop. He's right. He got emotional. I noticed that the press conference was in full view of the charred-out wing of the house behind him.
Yeah. Chris, I think Josh Shapiro understands optics the way that Donald Trump...
No!
All right.
Sir, that is outrageous, and I, for one, will not stand one moment for you on this show to suggest that Josh Shapiro will in any way, shape, matter, or form try to make this something from which he can benefit politically. That is an outrage, sir, and you will take it back at once.
I am sorry, Chris. I apologize. The picture, the visual of the burned out portion of the house has no bearing on the optics in the press conference that was held.
It was a pure coincidence that it was stationed there. I mean,
Yes.
of all the places one could have a press conference after their family was, threatened, you want to make sure you have the press conference in full view of the portion of the home you weren't in that was burned. You just, and I think it's for everyone's benefit that we all see it. And look, I am sure we're going to be treated to a full rectal exam of who this Cody Balmer is, age 38. I can't wait to hear. I am sure, since I already have seen at least one story reporting he's anti-Biden, I am sure in due course we're going to find out that he's a Trump voter or that he registered once as a Republican. Although I think they're probably having trouble proving that. Don't you believe by now if Cody Balmer were a Trump voter we would have heard about it? They say he had an anti-Biden Facebook post, but that's all we know. I bet if he was a Trump voter, we would have known it the night it happened. They probably would have found that before sunup.
They got to do more digging. I think what can come into play here when something like this happens? Anti-Semitism, quote-unquote Trump voter. Like, there's a lot of factors here that I think will be investigated, and you better believe WAPO, New York Times, all the heavies are going to be looking into this swiftly.
Well, what was it? Passover began officially that night. They noted that. Is Cody Balmer an anti-Semite? Is he a Trump voter? Is he both? Trust me when I tell you, the left-wing press hopes desperately that's true. I'll just say, while we learn all that we learn about Cody Balmer, and again, I hope we do. I do. I just hope that this kind of energy is as evenly applied to the guy, the 20-year-old that shinnies up the roof and takes a shot at Donald Trump in Butler. I'd love to know more about him. We know nothing about that guy, probably never will. His remains burned, gone. His family, still very much alive, the people that he lived with, never heard a word from them again. These are the sorts of things, last week, and I know I irked some of you when I talked about this, but these are the kinds of things that I grow impatient with. Because, you see, Donald Trump, thank God, the Shapiros, and I mean this sincerely, thank God no one was hurt. You wouldn't want anyone in any way, shape, matter, or form to be hurt, regardless of their politics, for heaven's sakes. And this guy, thankfully, was not successful in hurting them. As for the guy that shinnies up the roof, he was millimeters from taking Donald Trump out with a bullet. Still grazed his ear, bled quite a bit. Look, I know more about Cody Balmer right now than I know about the guy that shot at Donald Trump's head in Butler. And that ain't much. I don't know. It's. We'll watch it. We'll watch it, and we'll watch how they treat this story. What a shot! What an approach shot from Rory. Did you see that? Lights out. Finally got it done. Finally got his career grand slam. Sixth golfer to do it. Took Rory a while. The fight that guy has put up to try to get there, to finally win the Masters and do it yesterday, just collapsed in emotion. I would imagine that has just got to be emotionally exhausting. That was just years and years and years of a quest for something you just couldn't quite get done, finally to get there. It's fun. It is fun to see people who are at the very, very top of their game, their field, whatever it is, finally achieve that brass ring. The problem for me is with something like that, Ed, if that were me, and you've achieved the Grand Slam and you won the green jacket, how do you keep the motivation to keep going? That's what I've always wondered. Same with like a Super Bowl or anything else, particularly if you won like one or two. How do you keep getting up and going, I got to go get it again? I feel like once I've done it once, I'm set. But that's the difference between me and a highly competitive guy, I guess. I don't know how you muster the stuff to get up and do it again.
That's why they say, Chris, that the Champions Tour, actually the senior tour, is the hardest of all the professional golf tours, because you do have all those guys, these legends, that have done the most you could possibly do in professional golf, competing against one another. But that's the thing. It is kind of what separates us from professionals, right? In any sport.
Just amazing. Amazing. I'm happy for the guy. I really am. Didn't have a particular rooting interest in this year's Masters, but it's great to see a guy who has fought so hard get it done. Anyway, welcome in. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL. If you want to get in here, the boys from the finance department of the Trump administration were out on the Sunday shows again. Lest you think they told Lutnick and Navarro to have a seat in favor of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, old cowboy Bessent. Apparently Bessent had the weekend off, and they sent out the Looney Tunes again. I say that lovingly. Lutnick and Navarro, back at it again. And it seems to me a little... I don't think these guys do a lot of talking. That's all I can gather. Give me 1501. Here's Commerce Secretary Lutnick on ABC.
The notice that went out Friday night saying that electronics, a wide range of electronics, including smartphones, including components used to make microchips, that these are now exempt from the reciprocal tariffs. Why that move?
Well, remember, those products are going to be part of the semiconductor sectoral tariffs, which are coming. So you're going to see this week there'll be a register in the Federal Registry. There'll be a notice put out. That is different types of work. So we're going to do that. We did that in autos. The president's going to do it for pharmaceuticals, and he's going to do it for semiconductors. So all those products are going to come under semiconductors, and they're going to have a special focus type of tariff to make sure that those products...
All right, and he goes on. Now, Navarro, meanwhile, across the street on Meet the Press, in 1505, here's him taking a stab at this.
The policy is no exemptions, no exclusions. The policy is in effect. No, there were not exclusions. Let me explain.
Okay.
This is really good for the American people to understand. There's like different ways to go about getting fairness for the American people. We started with the fentanyl border tariffs. That's an IEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And we had a crisis at the border. We continue to see people die. By the time this show's over, another couple of Americans will be dead from fentanyl in just this short period of time. We did that. So the IEPA is also used for the trade deficit, but there's also a really important thing, Kristen, and this deals with the chips issue you're talking about. That's what we call the Section 232 issue, which is when we have a flood of imports being dumped into certain key strategic sectors, steel, aluminum, chips, pharmaceuticals, as we learned during COVID, we have to take specific action. So what we're doing with chips, the problem, interestingly, for chips, because it's very complex stuff, is that we don't buy a lot of chips like in bags. We buy them in products. So what Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick is going to do, is doing it as we speak, is an investigation of the chip supply chain. The goal is stability and resilience, and you will see action.
Look, here's the thing. This is complex stuff. I'm not suggesting it's not. What I am suggesting is I really wish there was a more streamlined and focused message between these two guys on how to communicate it. And even in that exchange, it sounded as though they were contradicting one another a little bit. Paging Scott Bessent. Did they send him home for the weekend? This is the Stigall Show. Oh, now this is something I can get behind. This is an exciting development. They're about to shoot Katy Perry and Gayle King into space. And I, for one, endorse that, Fast Eddie. I think Gayle King... In fact, who else would you like to shoot into space this morning? We could probably make a list. I got a number of folks I wouldn't mind boarding that flight with them. I'm excited for Gayle King and Katy Perry. An all-woman Blue Origin space flight is set to take off. And last 11 minutes, which is longer than most of their first marriages lasted.
The Blue Origin's the one that looks like an appendage, right?
That's
okay.
It's the Austin Powers movie. Looks like a giant Wang! Get over here! It's literally a scene in Austin Powers. So yeah, it's an all-female space. This is very important that they're shooting all women up there into space. And from what I understand, they're going to have to stop several times for a restroom, which is really... I got a million of them, folks, but I'm not going to. Our telephone number is 855-STIGAL if you'd like to get in here this morning. Jerry angry with me already this morning because what would it be? I mean, these days everybody's just full of you-know-what and vinegar. I got a lot of people in the audience now that they're fighting mad every day. They want to get up and they want to fight me. They want to have a fist fight with me. First of all, let me just say something to you right now. You're not paying a dime for this. And if you're unhappy with it, just take a walk. Just don't expel a moment of energy with the show if you're that upset with it. Just take a walk. I don't understand. Go touch some grass. Get out. If you're that upset with the program, go find another show. Lord knows people do 1,000 of them. I don't know what you want from me. Now, here's a guy that claims he listens to me all the time and thinks somehow that my conversation about Josh Shapiro is making light of potential anti-Semitism. Now, how in the world could you take from my summary of the weekend's events at the Shapiro governor's mansion that I'm anti-Semitic or laughing at anti-Semitism? How could you possibly think that of this show? If in fact you've listened to or consumed the show at any point, you know that I have done more related to the campus anti-Semitism. I've done more to speak out against Islamofascism, radical Islam, jihadists, Hamas. This is not exactly a show that dances around and chuckles at and winks at anti-Semitism. There are people in the conservative space, I'm sorry to say, that do. I'm not one of them. We have no evidence that this has anything to do with it being an anti-Semitic attack. I don't know. That it happened on Passover, the beginning of Passover? Okay. I stipulate that happened on the beginning of Passover. I also know that Josh Shapiro is a political opportunist, and both things can be true. Okay? He can be Jewish and a political opportunist. And if there's evidence that this guy is motivated by Jewish hate, okay. Look, I've seen the photos. He did tremendous damage to the governor's mansion. But as usual, I have to be the one to put down the emotional, moronic, idiotic race to assumptions position that so many in media do, and actually have to answer a few questions for myself. Number one, how does a guy hop a fence and torch the governor's mansion? I'd like to know that question. Can somebody with the Pennsylvania State Police explain to me how the guy hops the fence? It's a pretty extensive amount of damage, according to pictures. I mean, everything that I am seeing from the photos of inside, thankfully they got the thing extinguished because it looks like he got a pretty good bunch of flames going inside one wing of that mansion before they were able to extinguish it. A lot of damage. How did it happen? I find it really curious, quite frankly. The governor's family is fine. Now, Josh Shapiro, in my view, never misses an opportunity, and in my view, this happens, and the first thing he does is hold a press conference right in front of the burned-out wing of his house. That's not an accident. That's on purpose. It's meant to show that visual thing. Now, you say, good, I'm glad he did. That's okay, but let's just understand. Let's be adults here. I mean, you could have that press conference anywhere. You have the podium with the Commonwealth seal and all the officials flanked behind you right in front of the burned-out wing of your giant home. That's done for a reason. That's done for your consumption. Is it to drive home the crime? Maybe. I don't know. But everything's done for a reason. Everything's done on purpose, and Josh Shapiro is one of the most politically savvy people on planet Earth when it comes to politics. You should also know, those of you that think that I'm winking at or having fun with or think it's no big deal that there's anti-Semitism, I remind you that Josh Shapiro is a member of a party who many people speculated he was passed over for the Veep pick because he was Jewish. Many people said he couldn't win in his own party because he was Jewish. So don't lecture me about anti-Semitism. I have no time for you lecturing me about anti-Semitism. He's the member of a party of the biggest bunch of anti-Semites that ever existed, the Democrat Party, okay? So I don't really have anything to explain to you by way of my reaction to this. If this was an anti-Semit... And frankly, the motive for it doesn't really matter to me. Arson is arson is arson. You set somebody's home on fire and try to kill their family. I don't care if they're Jewish. I don't care if they're atheist. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat. And quite frankly, we should get away from this idea of trying to quantify why someone was attacked. Well, the Tesla dealership was lit on fire because of Elon. You can understand there's such anger now at Elon. I mean, what Elon's been doing with Doge and taking a look at Social Security. There are a lot of people feeling very threatened about their Social Security. You can understand why people would light Tesla dealerships on fire, we're often told. You see, I don't like that. I'm not really interested in Elon and who he's with, who he votes for. I don't care whether Josh Shapiro is Jewish or Christian or atheist. None of that matters. We just should, as a people, as a civilized society, condemn attacks, shooting at people, hiding in bushes and trying to shoot at them, lighting dealerships on fire when we don't agree, throwing bricks through storefront windows because of some guy in Minneapolis and the way he was arrested and dies in custody. I think probably a good rule of thumb for the entire country is let's not be politically violent ever toward anyone or anything. Let's not destroy property or light things on fire or try to kill people when we disagree with politics ever, or religion, or whatever it is. Maybe we just all agree to not do that. I'm on board with that. Everybody else seems to want to quantify the motive. And by the way, if it's trying to kill a Republican former president who's running again, that seems to get scant little attention ultimately. That can go bye-bye. But we're going to spend days and days and days trying to get into the head of this 38-year-old guy because he might have been anti-Semitic. Oh, and we found an anti-Biden post. I don't know. I tire of it. I don't... call me crazy, but I think anytime you try to kill anybody for any reason, it's bad. Including in the womb. For what it's worth, but I won't go there this morning. Let's go to Chris in Philadelphia to kick things off this morning. Chris, I'm glad you called. Welcome in.
First, I read that Katy Perry wanted to add an S to astronaut.
I don't know. I can't confirm that. What's on your mind this morning?
But apparently the arsonist nearly came close to giving the cops the slip. And I predict that had he been identified this morning, that the mainstream media would have been blaming Trump.
Well, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility yet. I mean, if there's any truth to the fact that this guy was an anti-Biden guy, they'll get there. If they can figure out how, they'll get there. They haven't been able to figure it out yet, clearly, or they would have been already all over it, and they haven't yet. So they're trying to suggest maybe it was and maybe it was an anti-Semitic attack. I don't know. I can't say that I know that it is or isn't, but Chris, thank you for the call. 855 Stigall if you want to get in here. Okay, so this from Politico today. Risk of No, you know what? This one too, while I'm at it. Because I'm probably not going to have a reason to come back to this. A Wisconsin teenager allegedly killed his parents as part of a plot to assassinate Trump. Remember last week when we did a story on assassination culture? That it's now becoming commonplace among young people? Luigi Mangione, remember the very handsome, the dreamy Mangione? All the shirtless pictures of him, all the people making over how great looking he supposedly is or whatever. He's the guy that gunned down the United Healthcare CEO on the streets of New York. Sex symbol. And we talked about how it is now becoming more commonplace that people with whom they disagree can just kill whoever they want, whether it's an insurance CEO or a governor or a president. I think that's always bad. You see, I think trying to light Governor Shapiro's home on fire is equal to assassinating the United Healthcare CEO because you're upset about health insurance claims, is as bad as getting on top of a roof and trying to assassinate a former president and candidate for president, trying to put a bullet through his brain. I think all of those are equal. And so if you want to tell me because one's politics is different than the other, or one's motivated by religious hate or whatever than the other, there's no difference. It's all bad, and all of them should fry for it, as far as I'm concerned. I have no time for any of it. Nikita Kasip, age 17, called for the assassination of Donald Trump and overthrow of the United States government in written documents and text messages found by investigators, according to a federal affidavit. The alleged killing of his parents appeared to be an effort to attain the financial means and autonomy to carry out his plan. This is a 17-year-old. Murdered his parents in the hopes that he would become financially independent enough to move on to kill Donald Trump. 17. In Wisconsin, the teen faces 9 felony charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of hiding a corpse. Investigators pursuing 3 charges: presidential assassination, conspiracy, and use of weapons of mass destruction. Police believe the suspect's mother and his stepfather were killed on February 11th, both found dead, gunshot wounds more than 2 weeks later when deputies performed a welfare check on the home. The suspect was not in the home. Authorities listed their SUV as stolen. Now, to me, I find that story every bit as disturbing as a guy trying to torch the governor's house. Totally different motives, but the same kind of mental sickness. Anyway, if you've got more to say on this, feel free to come on in. But, you know, I'm not going to be challenged for not feeling angry enough or upset enough about the way the Josh Shapiro story is being treated, or that we should treat it with more severity and heavy-handedness. I mean, and look, quite frankly, we're also talking about an era in which Gretchen Whitmer was allegedly nearly kidnapped once, and we found out that the feds orchestrated that whole damn thing. So, forgive me, I pump the brakes a little bit until I know the full and complete details of all stories, particularly when it involves high-profile politicians. This is the Stigall Show. No, you know, while we're on this, I'm sorry, now here I was in this perfectly good mood, and now I'm mildly irritated. So let's just stay with this for a minute. You want to talk about hysterics? You want to talk about why people are motivated to do crazy things and kill people? Maybe because of former Attorney General Eric Holder and speech like this, 1498. Why are we in the middle of assassination culture? Why did a 17-year-old kill his parents so that he could have the money to go kill Trump? Why have two people tried to kill Trump? Why are people politically motivated to start punishing people with murder if they're having a tough go of it? I mean, why gun down a United Healthcare CEO in New York City because you're unhappy about the way insurance treated your family? This is becoming all too common. This is how we deal with our emotions these days. This is and ratcheted up rhetoric that's completely insane. 1498. Listen to Eric Holder here.
Beyond that, every citizen in this country ought to be afraid, because the reality is, if they are successful in doing this to immigrants, and now they're doing things against American citizens, as you talked about before, who criticized the president, it won't be too long. And the president himself has said he had no objections to taking convicted criminals and putting them in the same jail in El Salvador. There's a treadmill that we're potentially getting on here that could result in the erosion of rights for American citizens. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason that we should be concerned about this. People who are in this country deserve the ability to go before courts and have courts make determinations about whether they can stay, whether they should leave, how they should be treated. And this administration wants to take upon itself to the derogation of the ability of...
So, yeah, it's 1930s Europe. And I'm hearing this a lot. I know you have. The Maryland man, the Maryland man, the Maryland man. Do you know the Maryland man, the Maryland man, the Maryland man? You mean the guy that's a member of MS-13, the guy that broke into the country illegally, the El Salvador resident that broke into the country, member of MS-13, and was rounded up with the rest of Tren de Aragua. And oops, he wasn't a Tren de Aragua guy. He was actually an MS-13 guy with a rap sheet and here illegally. Oops, sorry, we sent him to the violent prison gang. He should have been in a different violent prison, I guess. So difference without a distinction as far as I'm concerned, but MS-13, a different variety from the garden than Tren de Aragua. But he's a Maryland man. He's a Maryland man. He's a Maryland man. All the local news, all the left wing. He's a Maryland man. And Trump is indiscriminately just rounding up Maryland men. And it's like 1930s Germany. Now, that's the former top law enforcement official of the country, Eric Holder. He goes on MSNBC and tells that audience that Trump is just rounding people up. And then you wonder to yourself, how is it? What is it that drives people to these crazy places where they think they've got to murder a guy like Trump? That kind of speech sure does it. That's not true. That's the least genuine thing one could ever say. This is not, some guy out mowing his lawn in a Maryland suburb when a SWAT team comes and scoops him up. Hey, what are you doing? Like he's in Dockers after having some lemonade. Oh, no, a Maryland man. He was about to go to his son's softball game, and it's such a lie. Taylor Lorenz, 1512 here, continues to talk, speaking of Luigi Mangione and what the media is getting wrong about this. Listen to this in 1512.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts, and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who gather outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Yeah, I just realized women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we are. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand.
That's enough. Now look, Taylor Lorenz has been pretty outstanding on Substack with her independent journalism, particularly as it related to COVID. Appreciate her. But there she goes and shows herself to be the left-winger that she is. She thinks this Luigi Mangione guy's kind of dreamy. She thinks he deserves a Netflix show. She thinks single ladies really look at a guy like that because he's handsome and look, he vanquished the mean healthcare CEO. I mean, who hates their health insurance provider? Oh, I do. And he's dreamy. Oh, he's dreamy and he vanquished the health insurance provider. Right on. Man, my hero. This is sick. This is sick talk. It's mentally ill. It's mentally ill to liken arresting an MS-13 guy in the suburbs of Maryland and make him out to be some suburban house dad. It's illness. These people are lying, and mentally ill people hear it, and then they act. And you wonder how we're here, assassination culture? I don't.
Well, the numbers don't lie. Balance of Nature and the impact it's making every single day is astounding. You see the numbers for yourself on their website at balanceofnature.com. Listen to the stats from Balance of Nature, their worldwide success. You ready for this? More than 1,000 success stories reported every single month. Hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. Millions of orders delivered each day. Billions. Yes, with a B, billions of fruits and vegetable supplements consumed by people who've decided to start living a better life. We take them at the house. I've got them up in the cabinet. Take them every day. There's only one number that's missing out of all of this, and that's you. Do what I did. Add yourself to these numbers. Start taking Balance of Nature. They're whole food supplements, like so many others around the world. And here's another number that'll get your attention. 35%. What is that? You use my name, Chris, as your discount code. You'll get 35% off, plus free shipping and a money-back guarantee. You got to use that discount code, Chris. 800-2468-751. And use the discount code Chris or order online, balanceofnature.com. Again, discount code Chris to get that 35% off plus free shipping.
Hey there, it's Chris Stigall. You know, this past summer, I went on a cruise with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Mike Gallagher, my Salem radio colleagues, and I met so many listeners like you who have been on my PhD weight loss program journeys, and I decided for myself it was time to jump in. I wanted to give this Dr. Ashley everybody's been talking about call myself. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team customize plans for your body to make weight loss simple, and they provide 80% of your food at no additional cost. They treat your whole person, and so I've decided to join so many of you. Join Sebastian Gorka, join Mike Gallagher, and all the weight they've lost, I'd like to do it myself. I've decided to call up my PhD weight loss. I hope you'll join me. Maybe we can start this weight loss journey together. Reach out, get started, tell them I sent you and said hi. I'd love to hear how you're doing at 864-664-1900. That's 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Don't forget to tell them Chris Stigall is going to start losing weight with you. What a thrill it is to kick off the week with a cabinet secretary. Big doings. Congratulations on the get. Fast, Eddie. Brooke Rollins is the United States Secretary of Agriculture. Madam Secretary, it's a thrill to have you on the show. Thanks for kicking off the week with us. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Chris, and good morning, Pennsylvania. I am in the beautiful state today and with some of our good friends, driving around, learning about our farms, figuring out how to fix it and help President Trump make America great again. So it's so great to be on with you.
Agriculture is one of those things that maybe, a lot of folks don't know a lot about because they don't come from that background, but we all care about it. Obviously, when we go to the grocery store in particular, everybody's talking about the price of things. We know things that don't get to the grocery store without the good people in the ag world. And so the state of agriculture in 2025, broadly speaking, you do nothing now but speak to people in that sector. What's the sentiment? What's the feeling? Is it optimism? Is it struggle? What should we know?
Well, I think it's important to understand a couple big things. First of all, even though agriculture is a much smaller segment in terms of those who work in it than it was when our country was founded, 249 years ago, back then it was almost 100%. Now it's significantly lower. Is that food security is national security, right? And it isn't just can I get a dozen eggs for a price that I can afford to feed my family? It really is how are we ensuring that we are protecting Americans and that we are putting America first. And clearly that's what President Trump's focus is for all Americans. My role in that is now particularly on the agriculture side. And our farmers are hurting, Chris. I mean, they have had to basically 4 years of Biden, the cost of inputs for them went up 30%, while the world markets declined by almost $50 billion. So we have an export deficit in the ag sector, I believe for the first time in decades, if not ever. America has always moved our food out to the world, and under 4 years of Biden and basically inaction, and I think a little incompetence, that really shrunk. So that, along with the weather and other unpredictable elements, this has been a tough run for our farmers. Those who are operating, on the margins of profit, it's very thin. Many have not seen a profit in a number of years. So we've got a lot of work to do. Having said all of that, the sector that has supported President Trump in the biggest numbers is our farming, our ranching, and our rural communities. That's almost 90% in the last election. So he knows those are the people, we are the people that have been with him since he came down that escalator, and he has said over and over, I've got your back to the farmers. So I'm encouraged, even though I understand this period of uncertainty is perhaps a little bit tough for this sector, but we're working night and day to fix it.
Brooke Rollins, our Secretary of Agriculture in the United States. And Secretary, the subject of China buying our farmland has always been an intriguing one to me. Is that strictly a financial thing? Chinese come to the country and they put an unbelievable amount of money on the table to purchase acreage, and that's why it has been snapped up to the degree it has been. And should that be illegal in the United States? That is, that China specifically be able to purchase it, in your view?
Well, this is a major, major issue, and I think to see the pervasive influence of China in everything we do. I mean, you've heard President Trump really raise this flag before anyone else, most anybody else, certainly running for political office. All those years ago when he came down that escalator in New York, he was talking about China and the threat of China. You've now heard, we've got, I believe, an amazing cabinet. Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, I mean, all my buddies talk about this from a military perspective, from a trade perspective. But on the farmland, it is extremely concerning. And it happened really without anyone paying too close of attention. But today, China owns more than 350,000 acres across the country. And now the other states, it's funny, I worked on this when I was running the America First Policy Institute in the 4-year interim between Trump 1 and Trump 2. And this was one of our top issues, was working with states, and then Governor Kristi Noem was one of the first governors in the country to pick it up and run with it and basically ban it in her state. So it can be a state-by-state solution. But now that we are in Washington, this president is hyper-focused. We are looking at, and we'll be rolling out soon, some federal solutions, which always should make conservatives a little bit nervous. We like it when the power is closest to the people. But at the end of the day, I believe, that this is such a potential national security threat, but also a threat to our agriculture sector, that we're going to be making moves on it soon.
I know tariffs are a huge subject, but broadly speaking, if we truly leveled the playing field, Madam Secretary, and let's just say there were no tariffs on anything, we didn't pay any and nobody paid any either, our ag sector, in terms of its output and sales to the rest of the world, what would happen?
We've been talking a lot about this, and I think what's important to start with here, Chris, is to realize that, and listen, I was in the first Trump administration. I was in the White House with him, running the domestic policy teams and also, chief strategist. And I obviously bought 100% into the president's vision that we're being treated unfairly, that our products for too long, for decades, under both Republicans and Democrats, were not given a level playing field across the world. But I think the American economic engine was so strong. I think the idea that free markets from America's perspective are better, especially that was sort of interwoven into the conservative ethos, that we all just sort of accepted it. But in the last administration with President Trump, he basically had been talking about it for decades, for 30 years, and we made some good changes, right? We redid NAFTA into USMCA. We had a China Phase 1 deal. I mean, he was working so hard. Until I got into this job 3 months ago officially, but got the call November 23rd from President Trump about it, I've really steeped myself and dug into exactly what that unfairness looks like. And Chris, I have been absolutely stunned. Gobsmacked may be the right word.
It is. It's stunning, Madam Secretary. And may I? The root of my question is, if we didn't pay 250% on dairy to sell to Canada, would our net output? What I'm saying, would we see the ag sector explode if we didn't have to pay that kind of tariff to other countries to do our business? I would think it would. Yes.
100% and 700% from Japan on our rice and 20% from Brazil on our corn, on our ethanol. And it isn't just the tariffs, it's the non-tariff trade barriers. EU won't hardly take our pork. The country of Honduras, with 10 million people, takes more U.S. pork than does 450 million people in the EU. Argentina, excuse me, I get very passionate about this. Argentina won't even take our live beef since 2002 for ridiculous, crazy reasons. So the president is going to fix it. And in doing so, I think the explosion of our agricultural products on the world market will be unlike anything we've ever seen.
It excites me, and maybe more people would get back into farming. A lot of people tell me that it's more lucrative to sell their family farms than it is to stay with it, which is heartbreaking.
Well, the average age of the farmer in America is 58 years old. It's almost impossible to break in under current numbers and loan structures, et cetera. So we're going to really be focusing how to revivify and basically ignite a new wave of people who are excited to live and move to rural America and farm. But we've got a lot of changes we need to make to get there.
I've got about a minute, Madam Secretary. Your visit to Pennsylvania specifically, talking about our national forest, the Allegheny National Forest. What's your interest there?
Well, most people don't know, but the Forest Service is under the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have a tremendous amount of work to do. Our forests for too long have basically been held hostage by the left. We have not been able to, ensure they're strong and healthy. We can get in there and clean them up. The Forest Service itself has, Joe Biden hired thousands of new people on his way out the door, which we're still trying to figure out what and where and the contracts that were granted, et cetera, to realign the USDA mission around how do we make sure our forests, when one of the most beautiful in the country is the Allegheny, how do we make sure it's strong and thriving and that we, open it up for use, but and preserve it and conserve it at the same time. So I'm excited to be in Pennsylvania. We're visiting a bunch of farms. I've got a dairy this morning talking about banking per your question on the farmers and getting more farmers in, and a couple other stops along the way. So I couldn't be happier to be here in your beautiful state.
some of the most beautiful farmland you're ever going to see is Lancaster County, specifically. There's much more all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but Lancaster County is just beautiful. And anyway, Secretary, Madam Secretary, welcome to Pennsylvania. It is great to talk to you this morning, ma'am.
Oh, Chris, you too. Thanks so much, and I'd love to come back anytime. Love Pennsylvania.
Our telephone number is 855-STIGAL. If you want to get in here today, 855-STIGAL. Still to come, in just about an hour from now, a little less than an hour from now, we're going to go to the Defense Department. How about that? Hopping all around official D.C. today. Sean Parnell will be with us. He is the chief spokesperson for Secretary Hegseth over there at the Pentagon. We'll check in with him on the way on the Chris Stigall Show. Hey, thanks a lot for being with us today. Thanks for watching us on the Salem News Channel. If you are not a regular viewer and you'd like to be, or maybe you haven't checked it out before, I always like to show people the Salem News Channel app because it's the easiest way to take this show along with you to both listen to, watch, listen, however you like to consume it, whether you're somebody that just likes to listen with it on in the background or whether you actually like to sit and watch the thing, which, whatever. You do you. I'm not here to get into why you listen or watch. They tell me that that's the way people prefer to listen, is to have a screen to watch. That was never the case with me, but here we are, and you can watch it if you want to. So go to snc.tv. You can get the Salem News Channel app, and when you do, just click Watch Now. Super easy. It's probably the easiest app you'll ever use, and you can listen or watch or however you do it, anywhere you go. Hope that you will. 855-STIGAL is our telephone number if you want to get in here. Just a quick update, and I'm watching this. I don't have anything official, so I mind myself here, and I ask you to just a little caution as I share it with you, because who knows for a fact whether this is something you can take to the bank yet or not. But they're saying that this Cody Balmer guy that set fire to Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, the governor there, his mansion, that he was, born in 1987, a resident of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They gave his address, and apparently the home that he was in was being foreclosed upon, is the new news. So apparently he was bankrupt, broke, and getting worse. And they have some that are reporting. Now, again, I can't confirm who this is coming from, so I'm going to keep my powder dry here, but my instincts that they weren't giving us a lot about him being anti-Biden, as one report said yesterday, led me to believe that there was something up about the guy. Because if they had any evidence that this guy was pro-Trump or a conservative, they would have been all over it yesterday. But they haven't said much about him, other than his age and his name. So there are people reporting now that he has mobile devices, numbers that have been discovered, that were present for it, because you can track all this stuff now. Your cell phone, if you carry one around and people know your number, they can track where you've been. They can send out these pings, and it knows, kind of your GPS coordinates, basically, where you've gone. Everybody understands that, I think. And there's very sophisticated technology now that can basically tell when crowds of people gather. They can start to kind of, through what's called geofencing, they can start to kind of track the movements of people generally. Like, who are these people? How many people are here? Where have they been before? Do we see any patterns in their travels, their shopping habits? This is all rooted in that same stuff. When you've been talking about buying a new washer and dryer, and all of a sudden your phone starts showing you ads for washers and dryers all the time. Your phone is just a big pinging tracking device at all times. So just give it up. We're all being watched, all right? So if you're paranoid, there's reason for you to be. Having said all that, it's also very useful, these GPS coordinates, when you're trying to track a criminal and their whereabouts and what they do. And people are reporting, and I say people because I don't have any legitimate news source, although I would submit to you that, as Elon often likes to say on X, we are the media now. I don't think we actually need to wait for CBS News to confirm this. It sounds pretty plausible to me. The numbers, the mobile devices listed for this Cody Balmer, were present for 39 Kamala Harris rallies, Antifa BLM rallies, pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian protests. Uh-oh. I'm seeing several different sources on X reporting that this morning. Now, again, I cannot independently confirm it, nor have any journalists that I typically lean on, read, and trust confirm that. That's just seems to be some pretty frequent reporting about this guy. They're starting to post some family pictures. It appears he's, if this is a family picture of the guy that I'm seeing pop up, it looks like he was married to a black woman, or is married. I don't. So none of the storyline of this guy being pro-Trump or a conservative is working out, it appears. So always at first blush, you got to be cautious. You know, I realize that the fire was set at the kickoff of Passover. I realize Josh Shapiro's Jewish. I realize everybody wants to make this a hate crime, and maybe it is. But to be very clear, if it is in fact a hate crime, it appears it was done by, shocker, yet again, a leftist. The virulent anti-Semitism that exists in this country almost entirely comes from the American left. We see it on college campuses. We see it in the riots and the protests. It's that clear. So we'll keep watching this. Now, Fast Eddie, you being Catholic, I need to sit up and take note of who you have listed here on the call screen software. Sister Mary Grace, is that right? Does that imply what I think it implies?
I believe so, but Chris, I should have asked. That's my fault. Sorry. Sister Mary Grace, okay. I think so, though.
In Brooklyn, Ohio, it's Sister Mary Grace. Does that imply what I think it implies? Sister, good morning.
I go as Sister Mary Grace because I opened many convents.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's impressive. Now, how does that work? You yourself are not a nun, but you've opened many convents?
Yes, in many nursing homes for Jewish people and all of that because I knew how to cook, for the Jewish people.
I'll be darned. Well,
yes.
It's very nice to meet you, and I appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Well, basically, we're doing a pushback here because we have a lot of called rhinos.
Could you? Let me ask you a question, Mary. Could you do me a favor? Could you turn your radio down back there because I hear myself in the background? I'm grateful you listen to me at the volume you do, but I wanted to hear your lovely voice without me in the background screeching.
Just give me
Can you turn that down there?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay.
You
go ahead.
While,
That's all right. You do. In fact, hang on just a second, Mary, and I'll come right back to you. We're going to put you on hold. Just give me a second. I'm coming right back to you while I go to Kyle in Tampa. Kyle, I'm glad you called. Welcome into the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Happy Monday.
Thank you, sir. You as well. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. A couple of points. You talked about the Shapiro, and you mentioned Grinch and Whitmer, and that was funny because it kind of came to my mind, too. And I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on, but I think it's very interesting that a lot of the details coming out are not about him being conservative or tied to Trump, but more on the left. And I think you can correlate all of the violence, especially when you were mentioning the death of the CEO for United Healthcare, with the left. And when I think about it is I think it's not going to be one-off. I think it's going to be a trend because the colleges are so liberal, leftist, undercover communists, undercover socialists that they're churning these ideas to these young people and they're coming out. And then you have the media celebrating it, saying he's handsome, he's sexy, he's morally good, which is insane because he murdered someone. So I think this is going to be a trend, unfortunately, until we can get that school system straightened out.
I couldn't agree more. There was a story, I don't know if you heard the show last week, I referenced it earlier in the show, about assassination culture being on the rise with young people. Murdering on behalf of your political point of view or your grievance, and that being something that's kind of commonplace and celebrated. People are becoming more comfortable with that. Assassination culture. I got to go find that story. That's one of those I should just keep aside. But it's clearly a trend, and I don't see it coming from the right. I mean, if I saw that, I would tell you so because it would alarm me. But it seems the left is increasingly feeling justified in doing whatever they have to do as a means to an end. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Kyle. Our telephone number, 855-STIGAL. Quick story here from Politico that could be true, could not be true, and as always, it's Politico, so I caution, but there's also something about this that feels kind of right given who's talking. Headline, risk of failure looms large as GOP starts drafting the big, beautiful bill. They know it's going to be big, writes Politico. They want it to be beautiful. Now congressional Republicans need to decide what's going to be in it, and they're confronting the very real possibility they may not be able to figure it out. A Thursday House vote might have finalized a fiscal framework, but completing that intermediate step exposed huge fissures between the House and Senate over a range of issues crucial to finishing the sprawling legislation that's expected to span tax cuts, border security, energy, and more. Speaker Johnson made big promises to a brand of fiscal hawks about steep spending cuts. John Thune, over there on the Senate side, has left himself maximum flexibility to placate his own conference. Competing GOP factions, meanwhile, have drawn all sorts of red lines for the bill, many of them wholly incompatible. And that has some Republicans worried about what's ahead. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana said, I know that we're supposed to produce a final result, but sometimes it doesn't. Many times up here, it doesn't. We can spend an entire year getting nothing done. Looming large in this big, beautiful bill. What happened the last time Republicans tried to sprint out of the gate and pass a big party line policy priority after a Trump inauguration? The 2017 effort to remake American health care ran aground after dominating the first 7 months of Trump's tenure as president. Kennedy said he wants a 60-day deadline to hash out a bill before calling in Trump to resolve their differences, while Budget Chair Lindsey Graham said this week he's aiming to get the bill to Trump by Memorial Day. And this goes on and specifically quotes Lisa Murkowski of Alaska saying, I'm concerned about how we're going to figure out how to get this done between the two bodies. So Politico is basically laying the groundwork for the Senate Republicans, and Senate Republicans seem to be kind of whispering to media outlets, gosh, I just don't know that we're going to be able to achieve this. $1.5 trillion in cuts, I don't know where we're going to find it. I don't know that we can do. The Senate doesn't want to do it. These Senate Republicans do not want these kinds of spending cuts. And remember, to be fair to Thomas Massie, he was the one Republican holdout on the House side who didn't support this because he said, good luck. You guys that think, Thune was over there last week. He was standing there with Johnson. He said, we are united in vision on one big, beautiful bill and with the big cuts. We think we can get to $1.5 trillion. Fast Eddie, you remember this? When Thune and Johnson were standing side by side and promised $1.5 trillion in cuts. We are united, said Thune.
Arms locked, ready to go. Both spoke. Didn't take questions, but both spoke in unison.
So now here's Politico. Risk of failure looms large. And all the Republican senators that are talking to media, oh, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if we can do it. That's an awfully big cut. I'm not really sure. Remember, over there on the Senate side, they only proposed, what was it, $4 billion? Some just meager, stupid amount of cuts. It wasn't even double digits billion. They were happy with all the spending, but they didn't want to do any cutting. These guys over on the House side said, okay, we'll sign off on the framework of this thing as long as Thune and the Senate Republicans promise we're going to get to the cuts we want. Thune went over there and he said, you got it. We're going to do it. Massie said, don't trust Thune. Don't trust those Senate Republicans. They're shysters. They're never going to do it. And now, lo and behold, here's Politico floating out the idea from all these squishy Republican senators. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to get to 1.5. From the Hill, Republicans fear Trump's trade war could lead to a political wipeout. Wrong. Before I even read what this story is, let me tell you what's going to lead to a Republican wipeout. If you Senate Republicans don't achieve meaningful spending cuts, the $1.5 trillion that Thune promised, Thune just walked a plank. He's now on record. We have him. It's on tape for everybody to see and watch. Thune and Johnson were side by side last week. And Thune promised the House Republicans, we can offer you the cuts you want. He promised it to the American public. Now, let me tell you, Senate Republicans, something. You guys think you're going to be able to just do this your way Maybe you're intentionally, and maybe we have to conclude that Senate Republicans intentionally like to be the minority party. Maybe it's just more fun to fundraise and pretend to be the opposition, but not be in power. I think Senate Republicans really, really enjoy just kicking back and being the pretend opposition party with no control. They like guys like Chuck Schumer running everything, so they can come on shows like this one and say, well, you know, Chris, we'd love to do it, but we're not in power. And Chuck Schumer, I have done so many senator interviews with Republicans over the years that have all said some form of that. Well, we'd love to, but Chuck Schumer runs the Senate. Well, he doesn't right now. John Thune runs the Senate. And you weasels on the Republican side that are already starting to make excuses about why you can't get to $1.5 trillion in cuts, it's obscene. And The Hill is writing stories about, well, it's Trump's trade war. Republicans could face a wipeout in the midterms with Trump's trade war. The hell? The hell? Now, I realize that there are polls that say that Trump's tariff policies are starting to slip in public polling. People are not as nuts about it as they were. I guess he's dropped like 4 points, according to some polls, since the tariffs. And I will say this about that. I think messaging on tariffs has largely been a disaster, with the exception of Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. Now, here again this weekend, Lutnick and Navarro roll out, and I don't know. That's like listening to, remember when Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny were shouting, duck season, rabbit season? That's the two of them. Duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbits. I can't listen to the two of them anymore. I just can't. I'm sure they're fine guys. I'm sure they're smart guys. I think every time they go out on blast, they contradict one another. They confuse people. They don't know what the hell's up and down. And then Scott Bessent has to come out after they've had their say on TV and go, well, the way the president actually feels about things. And then the media all says, whew, all right, there's an adult back in charge. I don't know what it is about Bessent that's got a calming effect, but he does. Lutnick and Navarro just upset and confuse everyone. They just do. I'm sorry. They do. You may not like me saying that, but I believe that's so. So could there be better messaging on tariffing and where we're trying to go with this and why they need to happen and what's so unfair about tariff policies globally right now? Yes, that needs to be explained and explained simply and constantly. But that is not why. If there's going to be a Republican wipeout in the midterms, the reason that'll come is if these Republicans in Congress do not deliver massive codified tax cuts and spending cuts. You deliver, if you actually deliver cuts to overtime taxes, meaning no more taxes on overtime, no more taxes on Social Security, no more taxes on tips. If you guys actually deliver that, and maybe we're finding that the outcome is not what they'd want, which is, I believe they'd be in perpetual power. I think they'd grow their majorities if they could go home to their constituencies in their states and say, we cut taxes on tips and overtime and Social Security. They're gone. We have permanently cut taxes for everybody across the board in this country. Sit back and watch the explosion of growth, which would happen if they got this thing codified and done this year. By next year, by midterms next year, along with Trump's tariff policies, I believe we're going to see an explosive economy in a good way. But if the Republicans don't deliver, we won't. Shame on any Republican that is not excited to rush to get this done to complement Trump's tariff policies. But if they get shellacked in the midterms, it's going to be Congress's fault, not Trump's or tariffs. This is the Stigall Show. A beautiful shot of Dallas, Texas, and our great friends at 660 AM there. If you're listening, thank you. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, thank you. Some beautiful shots from around the country we take all day, every day at the Salem News Channel. You should watch it if you get a chance. Get the Salem News Channel app and click Watch Now. It's a big fat button that just says Watch Now. It's just easy, you know, like the big red easy button they used to, what was that, Office Max? It's that simple. You get the Salem News Channel app and it just says Watch Now. Click and there it is. I promise you people that are tech phobic, it's idiot proof. Take it from the chief idiot. It's you download it, click Watch Now, bang. That's all. 2 steps. But thanks for listening on great radio stations all over the country and watching on the Salem News Channel. Let me try Mary Grace again, who was in Brooklyn, Ohio, and was waiting patiently. Mary Grace, I thank you for your patience. I wanted to get your point of view in here, and I was sorry to have to make you hold a little while ago, but let's try it again.
Half in the morning. That's marvelous. You understand? Because basically I react too. But when these people go apoplectic and they don't know what to do, they really act silly and stupid.
And you're talking specifically about
yes,
the
many actions that they're taking. It's called toxic sympathy. I think it's they got a book out already about it.
All right, Mary Grace.
Really,
you're talking about the political violence that
right.
We've been seeing. Yeah.
And
well, listen. Yeah. What was that?
At night, Cleveland turns to Babylon. You can get anything you want. Children disappear, and that I'm not playing with.
Now, I haven't been to Cleveland since the RNC convention, and that was back in 2016 when Trump won the first time. It was heavily fortified, though, so I didn't see Babylon. Of course, I wasn't out at night either. I can't really say. But thank you. It was great talking to you, Mary Grace. Stay in touch, please. 855-STIGAL is our telephone number. It turns out Bill Maher doesn't think Trump's such a bad guy after all. He had to admit, doggone it, I didn't want to like him, but I kind of liked him. He went to the White House, recently at Kid Rock's urging. 1484 had this review on his show.
As you know, 12 days ago, I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a f***ing comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president has said about me. Things like stupid, dummy, lowlife dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy. Really a dumb guy, fired like a dog, his show is dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it, which he did. Which he did with good humor. And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you going to say something nice about him? What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a f***.
How about that? Bill Maher identifying himself as a centrist all of a sudden. I think that's the biggest bit of news in that entire clip. Fast Eddie, Bill Maher's a centrist now.
So, yes, and that's what I think of when I think centrist. So they try to sell all these other Democrat governors as centrists, and they're absolutely not. Bill Maher, who is against the transgender stuff, has called it out, was against the COVID jab and asking questions, learning information. That's what I think of when I think of centrist nowadays.
But didn't vote Trump, and by the way, you want to put together a list of things he's called Trump? That would be an extensive list if you printed off the transcripts of things Bill Maher has called Trump. But he's forced to admit, ultimately, to summarize, that Trump's not a bad guy. He's not a monster. 1486. Listen.
At one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy.
Okay.
Bob, Kid Rock.
Yeah. So Trump's a human being who's a decent guy. I mean, Bill, if you looked at his family, you could have known that. I mean, you don't raise a family of children as he has and grandchildren who love him if he's a monster, if he's a lunatic, if he's a crazy. You don't build a billion-dollar business if he's a lunatic, if he's a crazy. He is a decent guy. He is a warm guy. He is an engaged guy. And, of course, on the grand stage, he's a different guy. We all are, and so are you, Bill. Shouldn't be a surprise, but good for Maher for at least admitting it. Here we are, 2025. Happy New Year, and our friends at Gulag America are back and along for the ride. You know, they have been not only great sponsors, but they have been ride or die founders at the Harump Society. I am so appreciative for our friends at Gulag America. I love the work they do, and we have every reason to be optimistic in this new year. They are, we are, all of us are. America's resurgence, it's back. Trump's back, and Gulag America wants to continue to be your premier source for topical and satirical apparel and other gear designed to help give you voice for your love of liberty and your desire to see America great again. I know we all share that in common. Gulag America does too, but that doesn't mean that the deep state's not going to be busy at work. They're not going to go gently into the good night, as they say. So Gulag America is ready. They want you battle ready. They want you geared up, and they've got hilarious stuff for you to buy, and they're going to give it to you at a deep discount to kick off the new year. You ready for this? You take 15% off all orders at gulagamerica.com when you use my promo code Chris15. So if you go shopping today and you see a shirt you like, and you will because they're hilarious, go to gulagamerica.com, type the promo code Chris15. That's Chris15. Type it in the checkout, and then you'll save big. Enjoy the new year. Enjoy new savings with that same quality, that same hilarious attitude that you've come to expect from our buddies at Gulag America, where they say, it's not our wish, it is our warning. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for services.
Yeah, so, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on,
well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's so right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Hey there. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Thanks a lot for watching on the Salem News Channel. Thanks a lot for listening on great Salem radio stations, hundreds of them all over the country. We're glad to have you in here today. Short week for us, by the way. A lot of us have Good Friday off. We will be gone on Good Friday, but I wanted to let you know in advance. Friday, there will be some special Good Friday programming that I'm going to tell you about a little later. If not today, certainly this week. So we're not going to leave you hanging, even on Good Friday. But I hope you're going to be able to enjoy it with your family and people that you love. We're thrilled to be able to kick off the week with an old friend of the show, and the first time we've been able to talk with him since he's been installed as the new spokesperson for the Department of Defense. We knew he was going. We talked to him when he got the job. We haven't talked to him since he's been on the job. He's Sean Parnell. Mr. Parnell, it is a thrill to have you back. Good morning, sir.
Hey, it's great to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Are you there at the digs, the new office digs of the Pentagon? Is that where you are?
Yeah, the Pentagon briefing room is like 20 feet that way. So yeah, I'm here. I'm in a suit. This is one of our other studios that we have here. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. They do a great job here.
How's the job been? How's it gone? Has it gone as you thought it would, or what have you learned in the short time you've been there so far?
That there's always something going on in the world. That's what I've learned. This job is extraordinary in so many ways. It's also a huge job. You know, speaking on behalf of the Department of Defense, force-wide, all branches, to the American people, to Congress, to the intelligence community, and level setting all of that, making sure things are clear and concise. And then, we also manage all of the community engagement. So all the NFL Salute the Service, NASCAR stuff, forward-leaning community type stuff here at the DoD, we do. And then you've got the operational stuff, the acquisitions. I mean, it's just a huge building and a huge job, but it's an honor to be here and to be a small part of this organization.
Well, and nobody's better at it, in my opinion, than you. You're the right pick to be the spokesperson. May I ask you briefly about the media generally? I know when you got there, one of the things was some folks who traditionally like to have that front row seat, front row center, and your ear as the spokesperson for the Defense Department were told, thank you. We're going to bring in some new entities to cover the Pentagon. And that didn't go over well with some of them. How has the media been in interacting with them?
I've had a couple of engagements with the media thus far. I've been on the job for almost 6 weeks now. And we had I did a group off the record meeting with them. And unfortunately, somebody in that meeting leaked the contents of that meeting. And then I did another briefing, and I've had a couple of off the records, but it's not been easy,
So they're as bad as we thought they were. I mean, are they as underhanded and deceptive as we've thought them to be, now that you've seen them firsthand this way?
The Pentagon press corps is a little bit different, Chris. I mean, they are a little bit better, I think, than the vast majority of the political press in this town. There are lots of people in this briefing room that are legitimately concerned with technology, acquisitions, national security, foreign policy. And then there are some of the folks in the room that just want to ask political questions to undermine the administration. So you get all types in here. But it's the tough part about the job is that we're communicating about very, very serious life and death things here. So there is a political aspect to this job, and there will be times where you have to address something political or put somebody in their place from the podium. But the vast majority of the time, we're talking about things that can be life and death for our troops. And so, for me, at least anyway, having been in those situations before, I try to keep politics out of those discussions and make sure that we're doing right by our troops, because that's the charge that we were given by this president and by the secretary, to make sure that we give the Department of Defense back, so to speak, to our warfighters and make sure they're empowered to do what they need to do.
Sean Parnell is the chief spokesperson for the Department of Defense, joins us this morning. And last week, big news, Secretary Hegseth sat down with Panama, and they have agreed on a joint declaration allowing U.S. warships and auxiliary ships to proceed first and free through the canal. What does that mean exactly? What should we understand about that as Americans?
It means that if in a crisis, you go down to Panama, I mean, there's a long line of ships waiting to go through the canal, right? It's kind of an unbelievable thing to behold, but it basically gives us right of first refusal and access to the canal in times of crisis, and that we will have free passage. And by the way, I worked and helped negotiate those deals with Defense Minister Abrego and President Molino down there over a day's worth of negotiations. And ultimately, the Panama Canal is key terrain, not just in our Western Hemisphere, but in all over the world. It's right in our backyard. And the Chinese have had an ever-growing influence there, malign influence in Panama. I mean, honestly, Chris, they are. It is troubling to me. I will just say, going back the span of 20 years, both Republicans and Democrats in office, how we've gotten to this point with the CCP influence, not just in Panama, but also in and around the Philippines, in and around Japan. That has been the topic of conversation with many of the foreign leaders that we've met thus far, is the rising tide of the CCP, and it's down in Panama as well. But I was super excited, that trip, 2-day trip down to Panama. two historic agreements, a memorandum of understanding that would establish a troop rotation in and out of Panama, might reestablish the jungle warfare school at Fort Sherman, tons of joint training with the Panamanian military, but also this joint declaration, first and free. It was an America First priority given to the Department of Defense, given to this secretary by President Trump, and we got it done. So hopefully this is just the beginning of what will be many different conversations with the Panamanians, but we're off to a good start.
Sean, you mentioned China. Secretary Hegseth said over the weekend we've been sort of asleep at the wheel on China as a country, broadly, not this administration. You're dialed in on it now. I heard it explained when Biden was still supposedly at the helm that we were not, we at the time, Sean, did not have the military readiness to deal with China should they get uppity on, say, Taiwan. Where is our readiness today? I know our ranks have increased dramatically under this administration's leadership. Are we ready yet for something like that? Heaven forbid.
Boy, that's a big question. I'll tell you, I felt a lot worse about our prospects against the CCP prior to taking this job. Now, having been in on some of the briefings and especially talking with Indo-PACOM Commander Admiral Paparo, the guy's a freaking genius. He understands that area of operations very, very well. He understands the threat of the CCP very, very well. And I'll tell you that I feel, I mean, look, we don't want conflict with China. And I'll tell you, President Trump is working diplomatically with President Xi. They've got a great relationship here at the Department of Defense. We would never put ourselves in a position to undermine that. Ultimately, our goal is peace. But we are also ready. We are also ready, and no one longs for a conflict with China. That would be horrible. That would be devastating. It would be terrible. We're doing everything that we can to avoid that. But our military leaders, the leaders that we have in place here at the Department of Defense, from Admiral Paparo on down in Indo-PACOM, are fantastic, and we have a lot of confidence in them to get the job done.
I never want to be hysterical about this stuff, Sean, with just a couple of minutes. But just out of curiosity, as we talk about this tariff stuff, and China seems to be increasingly a little more desperate. We know they're on a short leash to begin with economically. They don't have a lot of wiggle room here, and they're up against it. I've just wondered to myself aloud, this is just me wondering as a guy, do you guys talk about this at the Defense Department? What if China does something out of just sheer desperation because of their economic situation? Is that something you have to consider, or no?
Of course. Our job is to plan for every single contingency and be ready for anything that's thrown at us all the time. We have people who work in this building that do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so we are laser focused on that mission, Chris. We're laser focused on some of the threats that are rising all over the world. And again, our goal and the ultimate end state is to pursue policies that guide us to peace. And I think that's what we're doing. I mean, ultimately, Chris, the reason why I'm doing this, and I know that it's the same for the Secretary of Defense, we've got young kids, and we want to make sure that they inherit a country, but also a world that's free, safe, and rich with opportunity. And we do that now by leading in critical moments like this, rising to the occasion in the pursuit of peace through strength. And that's exactly what we're doing, Chris. I'm super optimistic about it. I mean, the world is an imperfect place. Oftentimes these diplomatic negotiations with other countries and even some adversaries, it's imperfect, it's nuanced, it's tough, but we're going to get the job done, and we're going to do it right.
I hate to shove 30-second answer into something this complicated, but U.S. and Iran negotiations, where are things with Iran? If you can do it in 30. I don't know that you can, but how do you think
I can do it in 30.
Out?
Here's what I'll tell you.
Okay.
The president is the best negotiator in the world, and if anybody can get that done and keep a nuclear weapon out of the hands of the Iranians, it's President Trump. You've seen what he's done with Ukraine, with Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. I think we've got, hopefully, it seems like we've got an end state there. The president is relentless in his pursuit of peace there, and I think he's if anybody can get it done, it's President Trump. Let's just say that in the 30 seconds that we have.
Sean, we are thrilled to have you, sincerely. I'm so glad to see you at the Post. We always like to see you at the podium. We know that the official spokesperson of the Defense Department's a tough job, but if anybody can hack it, you can. Thank you, my man.
Yep, thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Quick break. More of the Stigall Show in just a minute. Yeah, in fact, today at the Harumph Society, I spend some time unpacking Crossfire Hurricane. I worked on this over the weekend, and it's one of those that deserves scrutiny. It deserves our discussion. It deserves our focus. Paging Pam Bondi. And I trust that she is. I trust that she is. Boy, did I get angry emails over the weekend on Friday's show. Oh, man, were people ticked at me for Friday Fast Eddie. I was not to speak remotely critically of Pam Bondi or else. And it is not, ultimately, that I doubt Pam Bondi's ability to do the job, because Trump put her there, and I trust Trump. And if Trump thinks she's the best person for the job, then I trust that, in fact, she is the best person for the job. I just believe that there's a great deal that needs to be adjudicated. Crossfire Hurricane, one of them. The raid on Trump's home, another. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, yet another. And there's more. And these are just things that I want to know she's working on. And some of you say, she is, damn it, Stigall. Quit complaining. Quit giving her a hard time. You don't know what you don't know. You're completely right. And I don't know what I don't know. And I hope that she is, in fact, working on those things. And maybe it takes months and months and months before she comes forward with any information. I just remember what I felt about Bill Barr becoming Attorney General after Sessions left. And I thought, oh, yahoo, now we've got a career guy, tough as nails guy, all about the law guy. He's going to start cracking skulls and getting to the bottom of stuff. We know how that ended, don't we? I'm not suggesting there's going to be a repeat of that. I'm just desperately hopeful there's not a repeat of that. Okay? That's all. That's all. Karoline Leavitt, always fantastic. Speaking of Friday, she took to the podium to explain the SAVE Act that the House passed that is requiring ID to vote. 14. This is interesting. My wife said to me over the weekend that she has taken a bit of a hiatus, particularly throughout the Lenten season, from Facebook and social media. And she said, I don't miss it, Chris, at all. I check in from time to time. And I said, okay, well, what are you? And I do too. Generally, I don't spend a lot of time on social media at all. I said, so what are you hearing? You know what she said she's hearing? She goes, I check out enough to kind of know what people are wound up about. And I said, okay, what are people wound up about? Here's what she says to me. And this kind of surprised me. It came out of left field. She says, women are all ticked off about voter ID. I said, what? She said, yeah, this voter ID stuff. Women are convinced now they can't vote after what the House passed. Fast Eddie, did you know that? Did you know that a bunch of women are convinced now that somehow because they have married names that may be problematic for them to vote, that this was a secret plot, some women believe, by Trump and the Republicans to keep women from voting?
Oof, no, that's
says my wife.
That's the newest one. I thought it was like, no, before I heard it was the Civil Rights Act. Now it's women, too.
Yes.
Wow.
And and to this point, this comes up in the White House press briefing. 1493, here's how Karoline Leavitt addressed this.
This is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. I believe I'm getting that correct. And this act is a common sense measure. It would require proof of citizenship for voting in our elections. The Democrats have been fear-mongering about this bill, have been saying that married women, if their name has changed, they didn't change it on their identification, would not be able to vote. That is complete fallacy. There are outlined in the bill about how to avoid that. The president very much supports a common sense solution to ensuring that only citizens can engage in our elections. This is critical to improving the integrity of our elections and also the trust that American citizens need to have in our electoral process. So the president supports this bill, and that is a myth that has been proven wrong by the text of this bill. And I believe some of the co-sponsors of the bill have been very vocal in addressing that. And certainly I myself, as a married woman, would not stand before this podium if the president did not support such a common sense measure.
Boom. Boom. Mic drop, Karoline Leavitt. You know, I'm a married lady. Are you suggesting that as a married lady, I'd stand here before you and support something that excluded my right to vote? How stupid would that be, says Karoline Leavitt with the best point of all. So for any of you that are out there hearing women suggesting Republicans were scheming to keep married women from voting, I can't even believe we're here, but thankfully my wife watches that stuff, so I don't have to, and from time to time she tips me off. She says, yeah, Chris, a lot of women out there think they can't vote now because of... I don't know, folks. We got our work cut out for us. Constant extinguishing of these phony fires the left sets. Live look at the great city of Houston, Texas. 1070 AM, our affiliate there. Thanks so much for listening in Houston. Thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel if you do. SNC.TV or the Salem News Channel app to take it along with you. Download the app, click the Watch Now button. It's as easy an app as you could possibly use to watch or listen wherever you go. Couple of bits of news since we do everything by judge now. A judge has relaxed the ban on Doge access to sensitive Treasury information. Have you noticed how when Elon and the team at Doge are looking into government stuff, it's always sensitive? It's very sensitive. The information is so delicate and so sensitive. Your sensitive, private, personal information. You know, because the United States government is so good about keeping track of your personal, sensitive data, and nothing would ever happen to your personal, sensitive data if it's in the hands of the good and decent bureaucrats of the United States government. But if Doge and Elon come in and they want to start auditing what's going on, that's very sensitive information, and you can't be reckless with that very sensitive information. Fine. So a New York judge has relaxed a ban she put on the Doge folks, preventing them from accessing sensitive Treasury Department information related to millions of Americans. It's sensitive. Judge Jeanette Vargas, in a written opinion late Friday, said that one Doge worker, a guy called Ryan Wonderly, can access sensitive payment information and data systems if he completes training that Treasury employees typically go through before given such access and submits a financial disclosure report. Yes, because here again, the team at Doge wants to access your sensitive information so they can somehow steal from you or line their pockets or some such thing. These people have a combined IQ that would blow the roof off of any building. They could make more money than most of us will hope to make in our lifetimes, probably in a year. They're super geniuses, and the narrative continues to be that somehow the policies coming from the billionaire president and the billionaire who's running Doge are to get at your grandmother's Social Security check. It's just stupid. And of course, that's what, you know, people like Pocahontas have been on TV screaming all weekend long, that this is some kind of secret plan about insider trading or whatever. Let's go to 1494. Here's Pocahontas talking to Jim Acosta.
The President of the United States can do something like this. It's very disturbing, it seems to me.
Jim, these are all just signs of the king, right? The king, unlimited power, and all that matters is whatever bothers him or engages him. It's not about trying to make this country work better for everyone else. Let me ask you, going after these guys, I get it. We can all talk about how this has a chilling effect. Who wants to do the investigations that need to be done? By the way, right now, the SEC and the Department of Justice need to be investigating Donald Trump and all of his close-in advisors over what happened on Wednesday. And was this stock manipulation and a violation of federal law? But who looks left and looks right and says, what will Donald Trump do?
Okay.
And then it means
that's it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk and stock manipulation. He's a king, and everything he's doing is to somehow enrich himself. Is the takeaway. Now, Cory Booker tries his best to take a page from Pocahontas here, but has real trouble explaining exactly how this would work in 1496. Senator filibuster. Yeah, go ahead.
Believe that Democrats have any real evidence that anyone in the administration profited off of the president's policies and announcements, or is this just a fishing expedition?
You know, here's the problem with Donald Trump and congressional Republicans is our whole system was designed to have checks and balances. Now, Trump has designed an administration like none we've ever seen before. He is attacking the very agencies that are supposed to have independent oversight of these kind of actions. So we see him hiring people based upon their loyalty, not based upon their expertise. The real group that should be holding investigations and accountability and even just oversight is Congress.
But is there any evidence, Senator? Do you think there's any evidence that anyone profited off of these tariffs?
There is enough of an offense here. There's enough smoke here that should demand congressional hearings. We are a separate and equal branch of government. The Constitution lays out very clearly that Congress is not supposed to be.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. You know what? If he was sincere, you know what he'd call for right now? You know what Pocahontas would call for right now? If they were sincere about this business of insiders getting rich by manipulating the market, the first thing they'd call for is doing away with the ability to trade personally in the stock market themselves. Will any of them do it? Will Pocahontas, will Cory Booker, will any Democrat today call for an immediate ceasing of all trading activity related to members of Congress? I bet not. It's as old as time. We all understand it. A child could understand it. These people go into Washington, D.C. making $150,000, $170,000 a year. They come out multimillionaires. I don't know that it's exclusive to Republicans or Democrats, but I do know this. There's a lot of inside information that they're privy to. And again, I suspect what this is, as is so often the case with Democrats, it's projection. They're projecting onto Donald Trump what they themselves are doing. Much like Elizabeth Warren shouting at RFK Jr. during his hearings about getting rich from Big Pharma. Well, I mean, as he pointed out to Bernie Sanders, you're the one that took more Big Pharma money in your campaign cycle than anybody else in history, as a matter of fact. They're all on the take. Projection. Oh, speaking of Bernie Sanders, I don't know where else I'd fit this if I don't put it here. There is a great montage that was put out. I don't know who made it, but I put it up on X. Mark Levin just reposted this, by the way. This is a montage. And I want you to, those of you that are listening and can't see it, if you want to see it, it's hilarious, and you can go over to my X account. Just follow Chris Stigall, ChrisStigall. I'm also linked on my website, chrisstigall.com, if you want to follow. And watch this video. This is a video of the number of times from 1993. The year was 1993. Bernie Sanders was first heard uttering this word all the way up to today, 2025. Listen.
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy. We are moving in the direction of oligarchy. We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. It is called oligarchy, and that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, and that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
1993 to 2025. That was stitched together clips of him saying that since 1993. By the way, did you hear they had their big rally out there in Los Angeles, Southern California, him and AOC over the weekend? Oh, it's huge. I saw a bunch of photos from that, Fast Eddie. Huge rally. Down with the oligarchy. Oh, boy, look out now. Did you see the size of that rally? Here they come. AOC Bernie, 2028. You ready? Buckle up.
One can only hope, Chris.
Now, what do you say? Honestly, when people keep showing you that on social media all weekend as evidence of this enormous groundswell of popularity for Bernie and AOC, what do you say in response to that?
There's no doubt that they're popular, but that doesn't scare me the way it once does right now. I just think that they are completely unhinged and don't really have a message.
Also, they're oligarchic donors like Soros pay for people to show up at these damn things, and they're in Southern California. I don't believe that most of those people were even authentically there on their own without being paid for and invited. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I thought it hilarious. couple of stories, not hilarious, disturbing actually, from readlion.com. The Lion, a site that I commend to you if you want a great news site that you ought to bookmark and just check out regularly for real news and headlines. I gave a speech on Friday. I was invited to a Christian school in my community to speak at their annual fundraiser gala, and I was honored to do it. I love people that are in homeschooling and Christian schools, that are starting pod schools and micro schools, trying to rescue our kids from these indoctrination camps. I don't think there's anything more important for the future of the country than that. And so it was my honor to speak with them. Here's a couple of stories on just these very points. Milwaukee schools, 1,200 districts across the country. Milwaukee schools are just one of 1,200 districts across the country with secret student gender transition plans. 3 parental rights groups have filed a federal complaint against the Milwaukee Public School District for making secret plans to transition students' gender without informing parents. Currently, the Milwaukee Public School System allows staff to create a, quote, gender support plan and a gender communication plan for a minor student without notifying parents, and then hide those plans from the student's record to prevent parents from accessing them. And again, this group maintains, Center for Parental Rights, that there are some 1,200 school districts across the country doing the same thing. I would strongly suggest, if this is something that you're not familiar with and you don't know about, your school board ought to know about it, and you ought to ask your school board about it. Is there something called a gender support plan or a gender communication plan? Is there anything that suggests your child goes to school and he or she gets to pretend they're the opposite gender and dresses the opposite gender, and the school and the teachers keep that from you? I believe there's evidence to suggest, and this story suggests, there are some 1,200 at least that we know of who have active plans to keep that from you. I mean, this is pit of hell stuff, folks. And then, of course, California public libraries offer condoms and lube to children without parental consent. A dozen public libraries in California's capital city displaying Planned Parenthood setups that distribute free contraception, including condoms. The Sacramento Public Library, in a city of over 500,000, main hubs of various libraries, and, handing out free condoms and lube there at the public library. Whoever wants our children the most, whoever wants the next generation the most, will get them. And the American left, the Marxist left, is desperate to get a hold of your children. Be forewarned. This is the Stigall Show. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, a live look of beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is a beautiful, beautiful cityscape. Love the look of it. Incidentally, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, we talked about this earlier, and just so you know, it appears increasingly that the guy who set fire to the governor's residence over the weekend may well not have been any kind of conservative at all. Sounds like he was crazy, sounds like he was down in his luck, sounds like he was in a multiracial marriage, and it sounds like he was a regular attendee of Kamala Harris rallies and BLM rallies and was of the left. It sounds like. The plot thickens. We don't know that 100%, can't confirm it yet. Of course, I'm going to keep a sharp eye on it. But this started out as a report about somebody who was anti-Biden. I saw one of the headlines last night was, he's an anti-Biden guy. No, doesn't appear to be true. Appears he's of the left. Appears he's down on his luck. Appears he doesn't have any money. It sounds like they were foreclosing on his home, and he decided to take it out on Governor Shapiro. Now, again, political violence, any kind of violence of any kind, attempted arson, trying to kill a family, burning them in the house. I mean, it's outrageous, of course. But in an assassination culture, and again, that's the story from a couple of weeks ago we had on the show, this is increasingly becoming an assassination culture. Political assassination, of whatever form that should take, is increasingly the way in which the left thinks it is okay to deal with your grievances or your struggles, whether it's Tesla or whether it's political leaders, whether it's presidential campaigns or candidates. This is increasingly a problem of the left. They sanction this kind of violence. And until the left stridently starts to speak out against people trying to take out Supreme Court justices and congressional baseball games, started with Bernie Sanders and that guy with the gun, Folks, this is almost exclusively of the left. And so I'm real sorry to those of you that are bummed out that were hoping that maybe this was a Trump supporter in Pennsylvania who was harassing a guy for being Jewish, but it doesn't appear that that's the way the facts are unfolding. Sorry. 855 Stigall is the telephone number. Let's go to Florida. Talk to Mary. Mary, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Thanks for waiting. Hi.
Hi there, Mr. Stigall. I'm a first-time caller and a Hewitt transplant, and I'm just loving your show.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really appreciate that. You know, Hugh has moved over there to the afternoon on the network where Seb left, so if you can catch him there, too. I hope you do.
I do, but I'm telling you, what you were saying about the lame-brained females as exposed by your dear wife.
Well, now, wait a minute. I didn't. Don't get me in any more trouble than I'm already in, Mary. I didn't say that. Those are your words, not mine.
I'm calling them lame-brained females. They need to get their heads out of that salon cloud of nail polish and hairspray when they get their nails and hair did. And then I'm saying it like I'm just calling it. That's all I'm doing. And,
so, Mary, this is in response. People that missed this is in response to women who are saying that the SAVE Act, the requirement for identification to vote. Women are now talking amongst themselves online on social media that this will make it prohibitive for women who have married to properly identify themselves and vote. And you say...
They're just not doing the homework per usual, chewing gum in the back seat of the class, not doing their homework, and obviously the needed voter ID legislation is imperative to the continuance of our constitutional republic. However, the embarrassment that I felt when I heard such talk was the reason I called, and I am so proud of Leavitt. Boom, she gets it. And I agree with you going on to Billy Barr, who had no spine and was such a disappointment. Hopefully, going back to the female equation here, I hope that Miss Bondi is simply holding her aces and hiding them in her chest. That's all I'm saying. I hope that.
All right, we keep our fingers crossed, Mary. I feel the same way. I'm holding my fire. I learned over the weekend. Some of you are really ticked at me for not being patient enough with Pam Bondi. So, all right, I will hold my fire and say no more. Thank you, Mary, very much. Incidentally, keep a sharp eye on this one too. Testimony from Meta today. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg is accused now of selling out to Chinese communist government, and now they're talking about perhaps breaking up Meta because of it. The trial in Washington, expected to last weeks, and centers around the Federal Trade Commission's allegations. Meta not only monopolizes the personal social networking market, Mark Zuckerberg and the COO Sheryl Sandberg, Instagram co-founder Kevin Systrom, and others are expected to testify along with top brass from rivals TikTok, Snap, and Google's YouTube. This is going to be a big one. There's a suggestion that Meta should be broken up, that Instagram and WhatsApp should be stripped from Meta, and they should be only allowed to govern over Facebook again. We'll watch that closely. But, of course, last week there was testimony that Zuckerberg's been colluding with China, too, and doing their bidding. So the Zuck is going to have a long week or two ahead of him on Capitol Hill. We will watch that here, too. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.